I don't know how we're going to do it. We have a lot to go through, probably an hour of content in the next 50 minutes. So let's see how we do as we, navigate the waters of the visual arts underground here with stunning works like this by Kristen Roose. Artist Journal, September 28th, 2023, broadcasting to the world from deep in inner space in Berlin, Germany, on a beautiful sunny day here. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back. And a big thank you to everybody who came to the Twitter Spaces yesterday. That was awesome. Artemort, Brian, super interesting, 25 years old, speaks like a 40-year-old professional, a total impressive, just an impressive person. And just a super interesting discussion there. It's on the Twitter feed. We'll look at it in a second. But a lot of very interesting things were discussed. The difference between crypto art and art on the blockchain, which I think sometimes gets blended together a little. We have a very clean distinction, courtesy of Brian, of what that all means. Of course, long story short, crypto art would be art that references the crypto ethos. I mean, it's beautiful. It's almost out of Oxford English Dictionary type definition there. Awesome. And whereas art on the blockchain, which Brian distinguishes from crypto art, is just basically like any digital art, like maybe like this by Kristen Roose here, minted on the blockchain using tokenization in order to kind of transact and buy and sell, create ownership and everything. So it was just a really cool space. And thank you, everybody, for attending. And thank you to Artemort for being a guest. Thrilled with how those are going. So here we are, Kristen Roose, Cityscape. This is from On Verse, and I believe they go for auction tomorrow. This is a one of one, and I love this for a couple of reasons. Maybe at this point, some of you are starting to guess. Well, first of all, I mean, what is the first thing that kind of pops up to you is the stunningly gorgeous color. Of course, Kristen Roose calls this vintage software. I like to call it retro tools, but I think vintage software is actually a little bit more technically precise. But it's kind of the same, similar meaning. And I'm not sure if this is deluxe paint, because we've seen a few artists. I played with deluxe paint once, and so I'm not quite sure. But I know Kristen Roose has used deluxe paint in the past, although it's not exactly, say, similar to Sabato and Muji. But maybe it is, or there's different kinds of deluxe paint too. Like there's deluxe paint 2, 3, and 4, and maybe the original. So not exactly sure which tool. It doesn't say in the description. But this beautiful cycling color, the colors are stunning, aren't they? And also, this is a cityscape, right? So you see the outlines of buildings as opportunities to put in patterning, or, as we've seen in many artists, whether it's Human Kernel, we've seen it as, it's a very commonly thing, use PP Universal, create the outline, and that's an opportunity to just put something in there that's fun, right? And here it is again. I mean, take a city block with this really cool entrance here, and, billboard, and you just create outlines, and they become opportunities for patterning. Or whatever you want to call it, for just, whatever you want to put in there. So we see that here, an interesting attempt at three-dimensionality here too, which is really cool. So very, very cool artist, I believe out of Copenhagen, Kristen Roose. And I'll tell you the final thing that I love about this is the wonderfully beautiful contrast. And which contrast do you ask? It is this wonderful cycling color, which is just a massage on the retina, right? It just massaging my retinas here. And that is contrasting with this beautiful, it's dynamic as well. And that is contrasting with this black and white, not the absence of color kind of background, for lack of a better term, with these great, almost look like flowers, or they're dots, but with like little smaller dots within them that almost make an X out of it. It's like there's a little gray pixel in the middle of these dots, and they are still, right? So we have the contrast of the dynamic buildings, or color cycling on the buildings, with the static, circular pixels is kind of what it looks like outside that are monochromatic. So beautiful contrast here and just stunningly gorgeous work. So this is starting bid of $800, $800 US on Verse's website. And I have to give Verse credit. Like they have a Quampa drop that I think is also happening. It's pretty impressive. They're very kind of tight curation. They're doing it really well. And yeah, and the website looks pretty nice. It'll be interesting to see how they do on these auctions here. It's on the Ethereum blockchain, interestingly, even though it has dollars. So you see they're almost trying to appeal to a crowd beyond crypto. And this came up. I highly recommend you listen to the spaces yesterday that we had with Artemort, because Artemort worked at Sotheby's in the NFT. He was an NFT specialist, I believe, at Sotheby's in Paris before they shut down, if I understood the story right. And always check with him. And he's doing all sorts of amazing things. But I asked him, like, what is your sense from the inside, seeing these collectors, seeing these experts in art? What is your sense of their understanding, their awareness of, say, art on Tezos, for example, or say art like this? And it was a really interesting answer, which was everybody's just kind of concerned with their own thing. And I totally so nobody's overly interested because everybody are specialists in these things. So they want to know more about that thing. And I understand it because in a sense, like what it got me thinking is when you don't know something exists, you don't expect it to exist. Like I didn't expect all of I was on the blockchain for a little over a year, I think, when I discovered through going, I first minted on Super Rare back in, I'm not sure if it was October 2020 or March 2021. Then I minted on Teia. Hen was already shut down. I minted on Teia in December of 2021. And it wasn't until 2 or 3 months after minting on Teia. So over let's say a year of being aware of NFTs and even minting as an artist and selling, that I started to see what was going on Tezos. And it started with Haiti Rocket. And then, of course, I found out Kurt Hustle Collective, which used to be called JNK, through Haiti's collection. So I started jumping from collection to collection. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of life-changing, but I just did not expect it. I thought when you heard NFT art, it was basically Xcopy, and a handful of super rare artists from back in the day that were there first and who were kind of doing incredible things at the auction houses. I thought that was the extent of it. I also discovered Rada's pixel art. Big shout out to Rada. I also discovered Rada's pixel art, which was that's when I really got kind of thinking I need to buy some of this stuff on Tezos. So all to say, I understand. I don't condemn anyone, or I can relate if you don't know about this and you don't think it should exist, because I think it really is an awareness issue. And there's all sorts of interesting things said in that conversation, so I highly recommend it. So here is the whole series by Kristen Roose, so Cityscape. So it looks like they basically commissioned a series of sorts, and it's gorgeous here. I picked some of my favorites here. And here is another one. This one is called Cityscape Structure Number 3. This is an edition of 10, only 0.06 ETH or $100. So pretty nice. Like I expect this to sell out probably close to instantly, I would imagine. I mean, this is on ETH, a 0.06 edition of 10. Sounds pretty reasonable for these gorgeous Kristen Roose works. You can pay by credit card, MetaMask, Tezos, or prepaid USDC. Interesting. So they're really trying to bridge the gap here. And here's another one, Cityscape Structure Number 4. So just washing across the visual field here. Just stunningly gorgeous work by Kristen Roose. I like this download thing here. That there too. It really kind of shows I guess that's kind of part of the ethos of the blockchain there too. Here's another one, City Structure Number 5. With these stunning violets and blues and gorgeous blues and turning green. Look at that. The color. So just stunningly gorgeous. So that is on Verse. I think the website, let's just quickly see. The website is verse.works. Nice website too. So they have put a lot of care into what they're doing over there. So worth checking out and tracking. So again, big thank you. Nice turnout here with Artemort, aka Brian. Thank you, Runetune. It was super fascinating episode. Comments from last show. So remember last show we were talking about, is negative art criticism necessary? My provocative question there. And we got some responses, and just on the show in general and on that question. Marcel Muntiano. Tezos culture is something the shape of which we can actually feel right now. I hear you. I hear you. It is, it's very exciting what's happening. Magician. Hey man, I like the way you sometimes pronounce my name. So we got confirmation that it is magician. But yeah, it's pronounced just like magician. You know, it's like the Aleister Crowley magic. I love it. It's almost kind of magical. That's almost how I was imagining we pronounce it. You totally caught me off guard this morning with showing my work. Thank you. What you are doing with the Artist Journal is invaluable. Whenever, wherever you decide to mint it, I will collect. And I may do that as soon as tonight. I may put on 4 episodes here. I'm kind of behind. I need to just get that done. Working on just putting together a nice little kind of terms like, you know, you can't rebroadcast or license. This isn't a license, is basically what I want to put. Maybe I'll get ChatGPT to help me write that. Have you ever considered creating a Discord? It's come up in the past. Right now, it's mostly a matter of time is kind of the issue. Like, it's already hard to kind of track all the Twitter. Then there's the YouTube comments, which I love, like this, you know, and so I want to be able to reply to all of them. So if I have a Discord, it might just push me over the edge. But I do like it in principle. I do like it in principle, the idea. It could serve as a center of gravity for all the energy swirling around the magical pirate ship of the mind that you're chartering. Thank you sincerely for all the work you're doing. Thank you for the wonderfully beautiful comments. And Magician, thank you for the collects as well. Thank you. DJ Kuro, thank you, sir, for showing my artworks again. It's an AI-generated contemporary painting with analog treatments. I love it. An AI-generated contemporary painting. The crazy text says, rhyme is that crunchy. So then we get some crazy text here. Some cut-up text. Loving the shows, watching daily, and collecting the works. That's that could be like that's like an Airbnb review. It's just a beautiful, I almost want to quote that. Watch this show, and there's the quote underneath. Skamra, great show. Thanks for showing my work again. It's all AI. So we're going to look at another Skamra today. I make my own models, textual inversion or embeddings, to help me get the styles and sometimes objects that I'm going for. For me, AI art is about what it means to be human at this moment. I think you said topical. It sure is topical. It's the new tool, so it gets to represent the new milieu, at least in my head. In this series, I'm enjoying playing the AI-ness, the textures and extra fingers, etc., off the immediacy and authenticity that we associate with drawing. Well, they're looking fabulous, Skamra. They're looking really just fabulous. So thank you for the comment and the explanation there. So to the art criticism topic, Dragic 991 about Paul Reed topic, which I'm a huge fan of. And I mean really huge. Yeah, I'd never heard of Paul Reed before. In my opinion, to be criticized, even in a bad manner by these guys, it means you really made it. I would personally be honored to get that comment. That one bad comment gave him more exposure than 1,000 good ones. And absolutely, that is the right, and I think he rightly kind of promoted because he didn't kind of turn away in shame and hide the comment. He told everybody, hey, look, Jerry Saltz is making a nasty comment about my artwork. So as you know, it brings up, I think it's the ABCs of Andy Warhol, which is actually a great book. I think it's that or The Philosophy of Andy Warhol. They came out around the same time, I think. It's not what they write about you. It's how many inches do they write about you, referring to newspaper articles. Like, how much are they talking about you? Kind of a law of PR. I mean, that's like a New York PR kind of law. So this is totally in that spirit, isn't it? Also, Jerry is known to like to do that. A lot of critics intentionally give bad reviews when they want to help artists because they know it will cause more disturbance. Yeah, I've heard this whole mentality, maybe you've seen it in your own life with friends like, oh, I'm just being a jerk to you because that's good for you and it's going to help you. I'm kind of, it's just a different philosophy. I don't think making people feel bad about themselves is, helpful. Some people do. Other people, like to me, it's How to Win Friends and Influence People, Chapter One. Never criticize. If you're working with someone at work, especially with graphic designers, and I know the graphic designers out there will likely relate to what I'm saying. If you're dealing with a graphic designer, for example, or an artist, frankly, but let's say a graphic designer for the sake of argument, the first thing you say is, I really like how you did this part here, or I really like something about it. Start with something positive. And then it's like, oh, what do you think about for the parts that you're having issue with? What do you think about maybe trying a different thing over here? Because, uh, all to say, my philosophy on this, and people have different philosophies on it, is as they say in How to Win Friends and Influence People, when rather than criticizing, when you start saying, oh, I really like how you do that, you know what happens? The person starts working 3 or 4 times harder. They are excited and they're like, someone, it just gives like a big boost. Their self esteem goes up. They feel great and they want to make more work for you and they're working twice as hard. That's what happens. And when you start with criticism in a, say, graphic design ad agency environment, it makes them dejected. It's like, why did I even do this? This person doesn't understand me. The ego comes in, and then it's just an ego battle. So it's for me, it's pure pragmatism. Positivity is pragmatic, right? I would argue, but that's just a philosophical thing. I mean, I've had friends again where it's like, oh, I'm just being a jerk to you, and because I like you, right? This whole thing. And so I'm always a little suspicious of this argument, but I understand it. I don't know if here is the case, and I'm not defending him, but I think this can only help Paul in the long run, and it absolutely did help Paul. And we're going to look at the show actually in a second here. Excuse me. P.S. I love this episode like all others. Keep showing up. People are already starting to notice what you are doing. Well, thank you. And yeah, it feels like there's a before and after from when we started, when I started posting on Twitter. And I'm really going to have to run through the rest of this episode. Putting those Twitter videos up has really increased the reach of this entire show. Runetune, the Jerry Saltz comment is confounding and totally insensitive. Unknown Collector brings up a point about the setting space in which criticism can be helpful. It requires either, well, exactly. It's about context. Because some people are saying, well, what's wrong with criticism? Like, it's all about context. If using clothing as an example, you shouldn't probably, I would argue, feel free to disagree, but if someone's wearing a shirt you don't like, are you going to start going, I really dislike your shirt? Or is that just rude? Right? But if you go to fashion design school and then it's about, hey, and you make a shirt and you're looking for feedback, then you go, okay, this works, this doesn't work. And that's okay. It's about context, right? And that's just like you go to art school. And so if people are soliciting it, it's a completely different story. Sometimes you pay for the criticism, right? So that you can be better. But I think it's important that people are asking. It requires either a relationship or an agreed upon setting in which criticism is expected or invited. I would never disparage an artist or their work totally unsolicited and publicly. Bad form indeed. Yes, it's bad form, I would argue. And I don't think it really worked that well for Jerry Saltz. Like, does Jerry Saltz look like a winner after all that? Like, maybe to some people, but I didn't get that impression. Within the arts and beyond, criticism of that kind is more of a spectacle than it is constructive because that type of sensationalism sells. Think food critic Pete Wells will sell more articles if he disparages restaurants in his New York Times article. And I must admit, some of those critic takedowns are indeed entertaining, or they can be. On the other hand, they are totally insensitive. Has Pete Wells ever owned and operated his own restaurant? And this is another excellent question here. And I was kind of alluding to this, but it's kind of like when art critics comment on artists' work, having not put their own artwork there, not only made it themselves, but put it out in the public to be scrutinized. It's like me, reading a book on plumbing and then trying to tell plumbers how to do their job. Like, what do I know about plumbing? I know next to nothing, and it'd be like me reading reading articles and studying it all in theory and then trying to say, well, actually, the book says you should do this to a plumber. A business that has such excruciating thin margins of profit. Take your point about Salt's not contributing much to the arts himself outside of his criticism. In quotes. Might I add that Salt's blocked me on Instagram after I made a comment pushing back on some of his commentary in a post he made. Yes. How weak is that? He deleted my comment and blocked me rather than use his professional rhetoric to respond to me. So, yeah. Thank you for the comment, Runtune. I totally agree. Rada, love the show, Mon. Feels like home. Yes, I was almost tempted. I thought it might sound a little much at the opening there. The home of the visual arts underground, but I love it. Thank you, Rada. It's always awesome to hear from you. Cableen on Jerry Seltz. Ombelin. Unfortunately, this horrendous comment is true. It's really disappointing. There was no review, just these words. I don't think it could qualify as a proper art critique, to be honest. I read horrendous comments of art critics in the past, but that was to provoke, and the rest of the review went more in depth at least. Yes, it came off as just kind of like sniping and without giving any, But again, probably in Jerry Saltz's mind, because everybody thinks they're a good person. So I assume in Jerry Saltz's mind, he probably thinks, oh, I totally helped that artist. And they're going to get attention, and maybe they'll get better too, is probably what Jerry Saltz is, saying to himself. But I agree. Okay, Blaine. Rosacio, I believe the word you're looking for is retrospective. Indeed. Who's retrospective? Was it Santiago? We were thinking of a retrospective, watching a retrospective in real time. And finally, and thank you, Indio, on point with the art critic relevance, Indio Robot, thank you. Xylograph is the same as a woodcut, if I'm not mistaken. So excellent. We'll look this up in a ChatGPT sometime soon. Acid Boy, Jerry Saltz is losing it these days. Jack, Coffee, Macbeth, thank you. Metageist, thank you. Flynn, DPZ, Martin Joe, awesome to hear from. And here's Rosacio on critics. About critics, I remember the time when I had to do an artist talk in 2014. It was my very first contemporary art group exhibition. I'm a self-taught artist. I was not in the art scene. I was shocked when one of the discussants, an eccentric professor, also an artist, criticized me. I never had an experience like this. He said something like, whose artwork is that in the corner? I don't recognize him. It's bad. My niece can do that. It hurt my heart, but when I think about it now, his words made me always think about how I can make artwork better. So yeah, sometimes I need the criticism when it's ass, like in an artist talk, but when someone out of nowhere talks badly about my art on social media, I will just ignore them. But then again, when someone has the time to write something about my art, even if it's a critique, I will feel humbled because they spared their precious time for me. Exactly. Back to Warhol here. I hope it makes sense. Pardon for the long... Not at all. Thank you for the comment. And this is the artwork from the exhibition. So Rosacio has been at work. That must be Rosacio. Big shout out. So here is the work. A controversial work. And you can even see the kind of elements of Rosacio's work here. Way early on. That's great documentation there. Great photos, Rosacio. So here's the work, just very quickly. And I had another thought on this, because I think I understand, when Jerry Saltz says this is horrendous, I think referring to this work here, I think I understand what's going on, why Jerry Saltz is saying that. And I suspect that the reason is Jerry Saltz says, oh, this is kind of corny, is probably what Jerry Saltz is thinking. And otherwise, technically, this looks like it's done quite well, right? It's not like these are technically bad paintings, but that kind of makes what kind of brought that up in my mind though was that's nothing that's going to be fixed by a criticism. If someone has that kind of aesthetic that you don't like, you're not going to fix that with criticism. That is what they're going to do, and they're going to stick with that. So I found it truly unhelpful because I think it's just for him to think that's going to help anything, so it sort of becomes about to each their own, Unknown collectors. So glad that in this space, some platforms really care for democratizing the art world. We always talk about artists, but also for me as an aspiring curator, I would never gotten a chance in trad art, of course, but Object One, Kika Nikolela, and Cableen One gave me a chance without looking much at my background, but by seeing my work. Very good point, Unknown Collector. One of the beautiful things about this space is it is more democratic. It's not in the traditional art world, contemporary art scene, it's what school did you go to? As if that makes a difference, right? This is what this space is about. Of course, we need professionalism and quality art and work around art, but we are also here to experiment in every field and give people chances. We need a healthy balance to make it different here. Amen. Just on the whole royalties front, this was fascinating. So this is an account called Cigar. Yuga Labs is not messing around. They made it clear that their collections will only be traded on royalty-enforced marketplaces, X2, Y2, and SudoSwap, so smaller marketplaces. So their latest Mara collection blocks trading on OpenSea, Blur, LooksRare, and SudoSwap v1. So that is pretty interesting because Yuga Labs, of course, has some of the most expensive NFTs in the whole space with their, now it's probably a $40,000 board ape yacht club. So that's pretty interesting. And this was also hilarious. And then I have to literally, unfortunately, go too fast through this show. Die with the most likes, replying to what looks like the real Blur account. GM, we notice your collection isn't tradable on Blur. It's currently tradable on OpenSea without royalties. If this was unintentional, please let us know and we'd be happy to assist. Shaking right now at the prospect of getting passed around like a Costco rotisserie chicken in a cash for gold marketplace built on the dying dreams of artists. Every meat market is unbearable. It's just a matter of finding a butcher with some discernible, albeit dwindling morsel of humanity remaining. So a poetic response. And here the art detective, Katya Kazakina, a tsunami of lawsuits hits the art world as, this is what I want to highlight, as money gets tight. So the art world, we've been tracking this since May, continues to tighten up in terms of liquidity and money. Regulars descend. So now there's art. There's, as the money tightens up, we're getting a tsunami of lawsuits. Pretty interesting. And here's one of one. We just started looking at NUV 1914 recently. One of one has just put out this interview with them. And so check this out. I've actually never been to one of one's site before. It's a Substack and it looks really cool. Issue number 18. I read this interview on the subway, the U-Bahn out here. It was awesome. I learned a couple of artists there too that NUV 1914 likes. This is super interesting here too. Something Savage, and shout out to Tornado Rodriguez for sending this to me. So as you can see in this video here, a pen plotter, and almost like, look at this. So this looks like a physical kind of GIF, but things are starting to blend into each other because it looks like it starts with a digital file that gets rendered physically and then basically gets turned digital again with the GIFization. And that overlap, as this person points out, is also beautiful. Continues to be an incredibly exciting area of investigation. Françoise Gamma, Amstrad Action Way 1986. So this is interesting. So Conveyor Belt by Roger Wilson and Swirl by Paul Fairhurst. So you start to see some of Françoise Gamma's influences here on Instagram. I thought that was super interesting. And here's Luciana Guerra, Painting Always Wins. So an update here on the oil painting work by Luciana based on her digital. That is very cool. And maybe you can guess the artist here. I just love this shot. Walk. Look at this. Look at that wall. The wall is stunning. It is just totally awesome. Okay, we got to run. Goyong Arts. This is going to be on AOTM on October 3rd. I have 20 minutes. So I apologize if we go too fast here. Look at how beautiful this is. I love Goyong Arts. Just beautiful, nice textures, just so much fun and beautiful. And the wolf going with the deer underneath. It's beautiful. Continuing on Cap'n. Commission work for Space Wizard. So just a classic Cap'n. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful from Cap'n there. So a commission. Gozo is back. Interior. So again, using digital collage pixels and maybe some stable diffusion. I think SD materials here. Digital collage 2023. I mean, I almost probably should put this in the AI where I kind of group together the AI works. But I mean, to me, they're just beautiful paintings. And they almost look more like paintings than AI work. So I expect this trend to continue. This almost looks like a fire. It's kind of representational, kind of abstract, beautiful. I expect this trend to continue where it's going to get harder and harder to tell how things are made. And the only clue we're going to have of this, something like this being an AI work, is the fact that we don't know how else it would have been made, and it seems almost too original. That's how we're going to know. Nirvana by Floatus Velocitanarum. A beautiful illustration here on super rare. Kind of has a kind of Eastern feel to it with the framing and even in the subject matter and even in the composition, kind of the center alignment here and there. You see almost like a Buddhist temple in the background of sorts, and this cool kind of three-dimensionality in the front here with these foreground objects, almost like a Renaissance painting. Interesting. I think of Bellini, one of the Bellinis. Interesting. So cool work there. The spiritual machine, RJ, have you said your prayers? So these are only a Tezos, and this looks like it's incorporating AI as well. Doesn't it seem to have a similar feel to Gozo's work that we're just looking at here? And it's almost like the AI version of this patterning that you find in the Mac. It's almost like it's been put in to a AI, like combined and then maybe worked on again. Something's going on here. There's something kind of unusual about that. Only a Tezos there. Edition of 250. And look at this. New Tezos 1 of 1 tomorrow. So something to get excited about from RJ again here. Continue on to Taste. Amnesia. I dreamed that I sleep. I don't fill my grave yet. Dark work. Beautifully textured. Made on a phone. And the phone is my main tool these days. I basically am using the phone, say for the promoted stories series, and then I master in Photoshop. But then 90% of the work is done on the phone. So good for the Taste. It looks great. And, made on an iPhone. Maria by The Myth. So an interesting portrait here. Kind of much more roughly painted, but very precise in the eyes and the eyelashes here. So interesting, makes a nice contrast, actually. All this roughness you see in the background with those very precise eyelashes. Interesting and nice kind of beautiful Procreate painting, I believe, by The Myth. A 1 of 1 for 150 Tezos and sold to Hegel Art Collector. How are we doing? Continue to run here. Sumi Reusi, emotility, which is a word I've never seen before. And just kind of a dark work here, seemingly, with the vines that are growing, maybe dark, I imagine kind of dark, but not necessarily, with the vines growing across the person here. And so just an interesting painting here. Edition of 5, 20 Tezos each, and there is one left. So a cool digital painting from Sumi Reusi, Kappa Sage, Freedom 2. So a portrait of someone, maybe Kappa, in jail here. And interesting composition here with maybe some people in the background hanging out here. Interesting work and pictures on the wall, counting the days here, and lots of tattoos. Really nicely done tattoos there on the body. Capsage edition of 10, Freedom 2. So selling for 8 Tezos each. Rustic digital art, look at the sky. So now you may not be able to see it. Luckily, I brought it up close. Kind of looks like the night sky, but I brought it up close, and what you'll see is it's made of little Marios. So the Marios are back. And of course, as we know with rustic digital art, celebrating irrationality. And as I say, it's not easy to be irrational. And Rustic is doing a really good job of doing it. So more cool work there. Memory number 3 from Sebastestaro. This is an edition of 15 for 5 Tezos. Just another original, interesting kind of spray, almost like airbrush with illustration work and kind of a surreal illustration. Santiago with another super cool abstract here, edition of 15 for 3 Tezos. What is this? Many AI outputs put together as a collage. So AI outputs used for collage. I mean, it had to happen, and it's happening, and it's glorious, actually. Look at how cool this is. It's glorious. 3 Tezos. And Quampa. Let's just get a Windoje Microsoft Paint 2023. This is commissioned by Cryptopathic for the Own the Doge community. So maybe there's the Doge that collectively owns the iconic Doge meme. Oh, so they own the Doge meme, and they commissioned Quampa, and there's Doge, and there's another Doge. That is pretty hilarious. Doge is the dog, of course, the meme crypto, and there's another dog. Really beautifully done. Really beautifully done. Let's open this super quick. We don't really have time, but I just want to see a little closer. Look at how brilliantly this is made here. Again, taking the outline, maybe even removing the outline and just filling it in here with this patterning. And this is really cool too. I'll look forward to seeing an even higher resolution of this. And here, look at how great this looks. This is on VerseWorks. I'm absolutely ecstatic to announce the continuation of Simple Thoughts by Quampa. This is Lonely Boy, arriving on VerseWorks October 12th. So, VerseWorks, it's looking good. It's looking very, very good. Tyrants. So this is the Demon Ego, kind of, for lack of a better term, it's a series. I don't know if I'd call it a PFP series, but it's almost in that spirit here. And they're a reserve of 0.15 ETH, and I think there's 9 Tyrants, at least so far. So very cool here. That is on Foundation. Ed Marola with a super interesting work here. As you see, it's a figure. Look, Many Worlds, One Eye. It's 4 Tezos, edition of 25. Almost like, I mean, this is, you would have thought this was physical before, but this is probably just made in Procreate, these original brush marks. And here you see kind of a figure that is like a big eye, but it's a head, and then the tree for kind of a brain. Again, always kind of like ancient looking, archaeological looking. Ed Marola, great color, very subtle color, and a beautiful work here by Stippen Pixel on Zora. Just awesome. I love the cat series. Who doesn't love cats? Kind of a fitting, for me, this is like a fitting kind of follow-up to like Warhol's cats. Kind of celebrates the same kind of things, which is just like the greatness and the cuteness of cats. There they are on a table, just hanging out. Nice animation, beautiful kind of pixelation here. That 4 on the floor pixelation, as I like to call it. Smartly colored, very smartly colored. Michael Micasso with a beautiful work here. This is not a goodbye. And of course, I follow Michael Micasso. That is a Twitter bug. Look at how beautiful all this dithering is. Kind of a classical theme, beautiful background here. And just a beautiful work just put out on Twitter. Matak's Position, this is Pinky Blue, and this is also on Zora. So Zora continues to attract artists from across the blockchain. This is awesome. So Pinky Blue here, who you usually use as pink and blue, and here you have kind of like a two-faced person, meta times position, meta X position, 15 minted, free mint. Blue Nile, Anis Abdin. So this is probably an older work, but I just wanted to show it because Anis Abdin has been posting a lot of beautiful work here. And here you see a nature scene done in pixel art style with what looks like some crocodiles coming through here. So just a beautiful work there. Some experimental pixel art from Element Lee, Transfer, 256 by 256. Again, I think uses an iPhone. If you go to Element Lee's object page, I believe it's experimental pixel art made on an iPhone or made on a phone. So that's maybe part of the secret as to why these look a little different. Here's the colored version. So very cool. You could sell both, couldn't you? And I love how the outline, not following the outline too closely. Same here. Very nice and nice kind of patterning. Just super interesting as always. This is Tickle Tokens. This is as you can see, it is a work that you can basically affect. Interactive work is the word I'm looking for. So just interesting, hey? Then you click. So this is a whole kind of new genre, I'd argue, of art where, especially in digital art, let's say, of where you can really create the composition here in real time. I also like the idea of being able to export, and where you actually are co-creating the work in a very real way if you can do exports of what you're doing. Here's a 1 of 1 from Rennyfish. I didn't see that was a 1 of 1. Cool. I'm a big fan of these 1 of 1s on Tezos. I've been doing them. I love them. It's just fun. Look at how beautiful this is. Very poetic and beautiful. These psychedelic pastels here. Some underwater looking creatures, maybe some bugs, a couple of dogs there, a heart. Just beautiful. Look at this brilliant work, of course. Who can't help himself? Danny P. Thibodeau, aka Hasdrubal Waffle, just cannot help being brilliant here. And here's just another example of this person looking like they're watching a TV screen. And people love this work. There's a bidding war. It went for 100 Tezos. It's an edition of 6. And it's not easy to get these works because it's always tricky with the way that Danny P. Thibodeau or Hasdrubal releases the work. He really likes to play with the mechanics, as he was saying in the space that we did a few months ago. Some interesting works by Nuv 1914. So again, really experimental stuff here. Even this line here, beautiful gradients, playing with iconography of a certain kind. SPS Espace Due, edition of 2. Sembrando, edition of 2. So just interesting works here. Quite beautiful. And, I love artists who can kind of mystify me, where you just have no idea what they're going to do next. And Nuv 1914, I mean, look at how radical this work is. Again, I highly recommend reading that interview. It's not too long. You can read it in a subway sitting that One of One did. Lucas Hill, interesting titles too. So you see how just kind of, again, we're back to this kind of boldness in the experimentalism. It's very interesting work. Here's another one, Cariños. And how are we doing here? I have to speed up. And another one here, Alumbradas. Just super interesting work, edition of 2. I feel like I've seen this artist's name before, but Nuv 1914 mentioned Martin Broek. I think we've shown work by Martin Broek before, but I'm not positive and hadn't seen in a while. Bulbasaur Rain. This was mentioned by Nuv 1914 in the interview. And so just interesting work here. Again, very experimental. Really, I find it the most exciting area right now that kind of excites me is just this, what I'm calling like indie or alternative digital art. This is Spiegel's Maskinen, open edition for $30. So this is Nifty Gateways. So I wonder if this is going to become a trend where we start seeing more and more things sold in dollars. Kind of a different feel for Spiegels. It's like, where's all the dithering? I mean, there's a little bit, but it's a different feel. And I feel like I've seen this one before. So taking elements from maybe previous works here, almost creating a movie out of them. Almost reminds me of Abnormal, the music. That's beautiful. I might have to... Oh, it's beautiful. The music is beautiful too. Like, okay, we got through it. Wow. $30. 1 sec. Spiegel's Maskinen. 0 editions minted so far. Might be a find there, a little treasure there. And this is Chimecraft. This is part of a bigger show. Phosphor Operator is the artist here. Just awesome. I go to Nifty Gateway or to Phosphor Operator's page to get the full work. Just very cool. Sky Goodman, look at this. Obliterated Highs. So a very textured Sky Goodman here. Really cool. Look at how gorgeous this is. Beautiful, beautiful textures here. Very contrasting with the shininess, you might say, of Sky's other work. Edition of 8 for 11 Tezos. Really nicely done. Mika Oladev, an edition of 1, artifact number 44. So another cool glitched out work by Mika Oladev. And let's keep going here. Score, Phalaenopsis. So let's play this. Good to see Score on the scene again. I believe uses, I think it's called Touch Designer. Just really cool art. It'd be cool to get Score actually on the spaces at some point. So just interesting work here. Very cool. So that is a 1 of 1. And let's just see what happened. Transferred to Bijou. So maybe a commission for Bijou. Ugo. Morpheus. Take the red pill or the blue pill here. Done with the new Ugo treatment here. Looks awesome. Nice chunky pixels, Ugo. Looking good. Edition of 10, 15 Tezos. Acid Boy. Great to see Acid Boy again. As I like to call him, the master of psychedelic abstraction, as you can see here, with a bit of a different feel on this one. So maybe taking a break and coming back with something a little different. So very cool here. A Star is Born, great title. Continuing on, Measureless is also back, byline number 2. So very cool animated abstract works from Measureless. So super cool edition of 200 for 2 Tezos. Dead Pixel Party by Trilobite. And these could all just hang in the same room, couldn't they? So Yes, Trilobite, edition of 13 for 5 Tezos, and Santiago is a Codal, a watcher of this show, EEEE1. And here's a GIF, and again, this could hang in the same room, in the psychedelic room of our Visual Arts Underground exhibition here. Just super cool. Look at that. Awesome. And Dr. Version, I think, could join the party here. Edition of 1, Spark Aligner, and there is volume, which I think is unusual for Mr. Version or Dr. Version. So this one's a little bit more cinematic than previous. Just very cool. It has a bit more of a narrative or a peak, so to speak. Very interesting from Dr. Version. Let's just see. Went to Bijou, so still, okay, just on an offer. Interesting. Lorna Mills, Money Trail. How are we doing? I have about 5 minutes here. So apologies if I have to run through. It looks like a car rolling through. Beautiful work from Lorna Mills, 20 Tezos, edition of 32, Rocano color game. And here is the Game Boy Color coming apart and together. I think I had one of those, the translucent purple one. Silva Santos, look at this experimentation with Nintendo Glitch ROM gamery. Very cool. Almost looks like a tapestry of sorts. Flow. And here is, I think it's called Symbolic Visions, Genesis. So just taking elements from a whole bunch of different games and putting them into one piece. Super interesting and cool. 7 Tezos, edition of 10. And here is Pamelo Corona on Zora. So more just super cool music from Pamelo Corona. Here's another. Just very fun. I love the music in this scene. Very good musicians here. Marcel Munteanu with a couple here, C25. And here is C24. So just playing with different elements here, very segmented and structured. Vintage Mirage. Facing Uncertainty, Blotter NFT, edition of 10. So interesting work here. Almost has a bit of a Popple feel to it. Blotter NFT, and here's Denyrus, who did that awesome Key to Success work, now is on Zora and doing very well. 137 minted here for this. Buy one, claim some dither glitter, open edition until the end of times, or, Zora. Very cool. And Gogolitis is going to have a series on ETH, and this is a bit of a preview. So look at this. Nice big pixels. Very cool. And here's Chaz, Preparing Error. So again, playing with the vintage computers, pixel art. So continuing that series here, edition of 15 for 4 Tezos, 50 cents, probably on secondary. And Byte by Bit, Golf Arena, hole number 1313, edition of 1 at auction for 5 Tezos. So it continues to be super fun from Byte by Bit. And here's Scamra, edition of 20, Tree 2. So again, using AI, but it would really hang well in the same show with Gozo there. It's got those same kind of AI textures, but doesn't feel quite like AI. Maybe they're both using Stable Diffusion, maybe. Very interesting. Again, the software dictates the tools. Elsafe, very excited to show Summer Daydream at We Are Unit London. So it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can make this bigger here. So as you can see here, looks like some kind of generative art, if I had to guess, but I'm not sure. It almost has a bit of a Monet meets Seurat meets almost, what is the name? Pizarro, Funfair, Zoom, with a couple of really beautiful AI artworks, really nicely done. Could illustrate like a children's book beautifully, like Funfair, like it's beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful. Some more great work from Zoom. Editions of 10 for 4 Tezos. And what is Iana? Good day. This was burnt, I think. But I thought this was super interesting here. The textures that are being used by What is Iana? Brilliant. I really like AI Digital Painting 44. Another Patrick Henry, who I haven't seen before. Cloud Painting. This is a 1 of 1 for 55 Tezos. I thought pretty cool. Beautiful pixelation here. Very kind of high-res AI. Just really cool looking cloud painting. AI assisted in digital painting. And here's another artist I hadn't seen, Neural Rain. I'm not sure if it was like Cosmo de Medici had picked one up. I saw this on Twitter. Quite liked it. Remind me of Yoain a little bit. They could hang in the same show there. Really cool work. Dungeon and Dropper. And almost have to go here. Tukes with a beautiful work. And then Paper Doll, Tomorrow's Full Moon, edition of 5. Beautiful work here, sold out. There's Magician Mikey Wilson. Very nice work here from Paper Doll. And Danielle King, Bus Stop. This is part of Artificial Childhood Memories series. Check that out on Twitter. It's curated by Fort Gallery NFT. So just another beautiful AI photo. This is by Walk Mona Lisa. And I thought this was brilliant. You can see the Mona Lisa and then the crowd here in front. Brilliant work by Walk. And here's Rune Christensen, who we've seen before as we go into physical works. Nugget Brain with another brilliant work. And here is Donnie O'Donnell with what looks like a cat. And that is your show, my friends. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, take care.